So he was an underdog, but just did it anyway for fun to gamble with Neymar. So he puts another 50,000, another 100,000, and he just keeps gambling until he's out of money. And Neymar wins every single time. Keating never won on any of those extra river cards. And Neymar ends up winning something like 300,000 off of Keating in one hand.
That's straight degeneracy.
Yeah, it really was.
All right, guys, we got Ryan here today. How's it going, man?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, been playing a lot of poker lately.
I have been. I've been working a lot, but I've also been playing poker probably too much. I pretty much play either like live or online and with like a friend group almost every night. So
how's the P&L this year?
Well, good question. Not good, actually, to be honest with you. My last like 6 months have been like the worst ever for me. So
damn, you're on a bad streak.
Yeah, it's actually been terrible.
What do you think's causing that?
I mean, probably a few factors. One, probably bluffing too much and hero calling too much, which I think is the probably number one. Like if you're a decent player, if you know the fundamentals, if you know how to play, if you're experienced, I think that's like the number one factor that can like cause big losses or can cause downswings. A lot of variance is trying to bluff too much or hero call too much, like make a big call on the river. So I think those are probably the biggest things for me. And then after that, it's just like always, so like whenever I have a bad session or a bad run, I'll try to like self-evaluate, right? And say like, what can I do better? Or what am I doing wrong? What am I doing poorly now that I've done differently in the past when I've been winning? So sometimes it could be just playing better pre-flop also. It could be like, you know, trying to like 3-bet too much pre-flop or cold calling pre-flop, like just playing too many hands in big pots pre-flop that end up getting me into trouble later in the hand. So
makes sense.
Yeah, I think I've always been good at like being self-aware and like being able to evaluate after a session or after a run and say like, how do I fix this? What can I do different? But, you know, knowing and doing are two different things. So sometimes in the moment you get into a big spot and, you know, you just can't help yourself and you just like try to run a big bluff and it doesn't work.
Do you feel like you do that partially because of content too? Like you want to get a good clip out of it?
On the show, yes, but like in private, if I'm playing like online with friends, like there's no content to be had, so then it's just stupid. But yeah, on the show, yes, you know, it's my own show. I get to pick when I get to play and not play. I don't play a whole lot, but when I do play, it's in some of the bigger games. And so because I get to pick my own lineups and play when I want, you would think that I would do like pretty well on the show, right? Like if the game's too tough, I just don't have to play. But yet that has definitely been a thing in my head over the years when I play on my show, whether it's like conscious or subconscious, is, you know, some people say that like, are you just doing that to try to like make highlights or make clips? And I feel like that is in the back of my mind, right? Like, you know, I'm like, man, this would be a sick bluff or this would be a sick hero call if I'm right, you know, and then I'm just wrong and I just lose $100,000. And
Right.
I'm like, why did I do that? That's real money.
That's why when I see guys like Nick Airball playing on the show, I'm like, does he play like that off camera too?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think it happens not for everyone, but for a lot of people where, especially if you play in like bigger games elsewhere or private games elsewhere, like Nick Airball does, or like I've played in, you know, in plenty of other games elsewhere, like Alan Keating is another example.
Yeah.
Like he does it where he'll make like crazy plays on the show because he plays bigger elsewhere. And it's like, if you're wrong and you lose, it just, you know, I guess you make a big highlight out of it and it goes viral and at least you have that, even though you lost the money. There was a hand, semi-famous hand that I played on my show a couple of years ago against Nick Airball, where I played a 5-bet pot against him and he flopped a straight flush.
Damn.
And I bluffed it off my whole stack into him for like a $400 and something thousand pot. And it was probably to date the dumbest hand I've ever played in my life. Especially tilting that it went to Nick Airball, because then I have to like watch him, you know, celebrate and talk about it a million times after that. And the clip went kind of viral. But, you know, that's pretty tilting when you're like
Shout out to Notion, today's sponsor. Do you feel like you're spending more time managing your inbox than actually running your business? Yeah, same here. Email hasn't changed in decades and it's become busy, tedious, and even stressful. But that's where Notion Mail comes in. It's a brand new inbox that thinks like you, automated, personalized, and finally flexible enough to work the way you work. With Notion AI, your inbox organizes itself. It learns what's important, sorts messages, labels them, even helps you draft replies, no manual work required. Want to stay focused? Split your inbox into custom views by topic, urgency, or sender, so you only see what matters when it matters. Flying through repetitive emails? Just use snippets, one-click templates for intros, follow-ups, or thank yous. Add attachments or scheduling links in a snap. And if you already use Notion, Notion Mail syncs with your docs for total integration. It's all in one place. Get Notion Mail free today at notion.com/DSH. That's notion.com/DSH, all lowercase. You're supporting this show when you use our link. Again, that's notion.com/DSH.
Going for a big bluff and they literally have a straight flush. It's just like, it's embarrassing. Your friends see it, your family sees it, people talk about it forever. And that was one where I was like, man, like if he somehow folds the river here, like this would be a sick bluff. And then he puts the one chip in and says straight flush. And I'm like, what am I doing?
You didn't even show your cards, did you?
No, I tried to like joke for a second and pretend like I had a better hand than I had, but it was just embarrassing, you know? And it's like, there's thousands of people watching and, you know, plenty more that are watching later. The clip ends up getting hundreds of thousands of views potentially.
Yeah.
And, you know, people will come up to me randomly over time and say like, oh, I saw that hand you played against Nick Airball where he had a straight flush. Like that was dumb.
Yeah,
you know?
I feel that. Was that the biggest hand you've ever played in personally?
No, but it's up there. It's like one of the top 10 biggest pots I've played, I think, or at least on the show. So yeah, that one hurts.
Jeez. Are you up or down on the show?
I'm down a lot. I'm down like close to 1 million.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's my own show. I should be winning.
I wonder if Doug Polk's his name, right? If he's up on his show too.
He's got to be up. I remember he had one really big win on his show. I mean, and Doug's also like a world-class player. He doesn't play as much now as he did during his prime. And he definitely does some things, I'm sure, on his show for entertainment value, tries to like play extra hands because he understands how to be good for the game. But he's a great player and he knows how to win. And yeah, he has a lot of money, but I'm pretty sure he's winning on his show.
Yeah. Who's the best player you've ever personally played against? You couldn't figure them out.
Oh man, good question. The best player I've ever played against, I couldn't figure out. I don't know, but you know, the person who I've actually had the toughest time with, I think, is Alan Keating.
Really?
And Alan Keating's probably nowhere near the best player, like overall, all things considered, or at least fundamentally,
right,
that I've played against. But his style doesn't match up well with my style. You know, I'm trying to be aggressive, trying to play a lot of hands. I'm 3-betting, 4-betting a lot. I'm calling 3-bets and 4-bets a lot. I'm trying to play big pots. He does the same thing, but he does it way better. He's more experienced at it. He has way more money. And so I just constantly level myself. And even if I'm not losing a big pot to him, which I have plenty of times, when he's in the game, it just like throws me off my game and I end up just playing poorly because I don't know how to navigate when someone like him is in the game. And I played we played on Poker Go a few months ago. It just aired recently. And it was high stakes poker. And it was a big game. But it got even bigger because of the lineup. Alan Keating was in the game. And every single hand, he's straddling. He's making it 10K, 20K, 30K, 40K to go every hand. And I'm on his left, which generally is good. But I end up having to like either just fold a ton, which is painful and can cost some money if you're just not playing any hands. Or I have to like put in 20K, 30K, 40K every other hand if I want to play. Like if I have a marginal hand, let's say I have 9-10 suited or I have pocket sevens and I want to play, I have to put that much money in the pot. If I don't, then it's like how many better spots am I going to find than those hands that I'm getting if I just keep folding. So I end up just wanting to play those hands pre-flop to gamble to try to get even, and it ends up costing me more. And it's like I'm scared to be a
Shout out to Kinsta, today's sponsor. You know, when we first started building our brand online, I had to teach myself everything from marketing to monetization. But one of the biggest pain points, hosting. It felt like I needed a computer science degree just to keep our site running smoothly. That's why we switched to Kinsta, and honestly, it's been a game changer. Kinsta managed WordPress hosting, takes all the stress off your plate. You get blazing speeds, enterprise level security, and a dashboard that's actually fun to use. No outdated clutter, just clean, intuitive control. And let me tell you, when things go sideways, I don't want to deal with a chatbot or some copy-pasted script. With Kinsta, I get real, knowledgeable humans available 24/7 who actually solve problems fast. We've had sudden traffic spikes and zero downtime. Our SEO's improved with the speed boost, and it's a huge relief knowing our site's protected with the best security out there. If you're ready for hosting that works, visit kinsta.com/DSH to get your first month free. And yes, they'll migrate your site for free too. That's kinsta.com/DSH.
aggressive. If he makes it 30K and he's doing it a ton, but still, like if I have, let's say, pocket sevens, like I'm afraid to put in $100,000. Like that's a ton of money with such a marginal hand. So I end up getting handcuffed and not knowing what to do. And then I end up playing bad. That's what happened on that show. So I realized afterwards, like, man, I don't think I've ever won when Alan Keating's in a game.
I will say he is so fun to watch.
He is. Like, he's probably the #1 most entertaining player we've ever had on our show or at all in poker. Definitely top 2 or 3. He's just great. Like the fans love watching him. He's mysterious, good looking guy.
Yeah. I love seeing the conspiracies on how he made his money.
Yeah.
You see that with Nick Airball too.
Yeah, exactly.
There's like whole Reddit threads about how they made their money. It's hilarious.
That's one of the most interesting parts about poker is that there's tons of people out there in the world, especially in LA, that have a lot of money, right? And they're successful business people. They could be venture capitalists. They can own some big business. Maybe they made money, playing private poker, whatever it is. There's these people that have tons of money that are out there. LA has a lot of money, right? And a lot of these guys play a lot of poker. They've played in private games over the years. Well, now we have our stream that has gotten super popular over the last few years, that has put a spotlight on these LA and Vegas private poker players that come and play our show.
Yeah.
And now people see them on camera and they're like, well, how did they get their money? Well, these people have existed forever. They just weren't playing. Like Alan Keating has been playing high stakes poker for probably, 15 years.
Wow.
Right. And he's been very wealthy for a long time. And he's played in private games, organized games, been part of big games. But, Dan Bilzerian back in the day, same thing, But it's like until they're on camera and get big on social media, people don't know about them, right? No one really in the real world knew who Alan Keating was before he played on our show and then played on Poker Go a lot as well. Now, everyone wants to know where he got his money from. Same thing with Nick Airball. He's been playing a lot of poker off camera, more than on camera the last few years. But, because he's this interesting character, people want to know, like, people can't accept the fact that like maybe, he's a character on the show, but he's actually like doing really well in these private games, or he's made money investing, or who knows what a lot of these guys are doing. But there's plenty of ways to make money both in poker and out of poker. And, everybody, because of the internet, wants to get in their business and know like, where does this money come from?
Yeah. You guys really did put a spotlight on those underground games though. Yeah. You guys get crazy views.
Yeah. Thank you.
I feel like you kind of pioneered I don't know if you were the first to do this, but you guys kind of have a new lane in poker, right?
Yeah, we weren't the first, but it's become, I guess the most popular show in terms of just daily viewership. We're on 5 days a week. We stream the most of anyone. We've done like 800 or 900 episodes since 2021. I used to produce Live at the Bike. I was an owner there. That was really the first live stream show that it started in 2005, but it never really blew up until I got there in 2016. And then over the next 3 years, it became a big deal. Doug Polk was one of the first big names we got on. We had some really cool shows. And then, Poker Go during that time started doing some live streaming. There really wasn't any other big live streams until after COVID. And then we started ours in 2021. And, we've had a lot of shows, consistent views, big names, all that stuff, a lot of big games, $1 million game, all of that. And now we have, the lodge that Doug owns that's doing pretty well. That's a.
Ever thought about how much EMF and radiation your body is exposed to every single day? From smartphones to Wi-Fi, modern technology never stops emitting invisible stressors that could disrupt brain function, hormone balance, and cellular health. That's where Airest comes in, the only scientifically validated solution designed to help your body adapt to today's technology. It's trusted by elite athletes, used by the UFC, WWE, Canada Basketball, and the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's backed by science, 100+ scientists, and 40+ institutions confirm its effectiveness. It's patented, peer-reviewed, clinically proven, and publicly traded Wi-Fi is the most tested, researched, and validated EMF solution on the market. Upgrade your biology to keep up with modern technology. Protect yourself with Airest today. Click the link below to learn more.
Consistent stream that's probably right up there with us for the most popular, and there's other ones that pop up in different places as well, and so it's become like a cool thing for poker, different opportunities to showcase players in different cities and big games and whatnot. So it's pretty cool. I think poker's grown a lot in large part because of streams over the last few years.
Yeah, a lot of people try live streaming and fail. Why do you think yours took off? Do you think your connections in the industry played a big role in that?
Yeah, certainly networking is a big part of it. I think there's a few reasons, if I had to say. So for one, before we launched Hustler Casino Live, I had a huge network of players that I was close with. And it's not just people that I just organize games for. These are people that I had relationships with. A lot of them. We're friends, we'd hang out, whether we play poker together or talk on the phone, or they call me to tell me about their life, or we go to dinner, whatever it is, right? Like there was a big network of players that I was very close with since back in the bike days. So, I've been organizing games for like almost 9 years now. Having that network and being close with those players makes it easy to find those players to put these games together. So that's number one. You have to have the players. If you don't have the players and the recreational players, like the pros, you'll always find pros. Pros will come about. You can stick them in there when there's a spot open when it makes sense. But if you don't have a huge base of business people, recreational players to build lineups around, then it's really hard to be successful in live streaming cash games, in my opinion. So that's number one. Number two is, so I had a background in TV production. So I worked at ESPN before I did poker.
Yeah.
And I used kind of that knowledge and what I learned there to envision what I thought a successful poker stream would look like. And there was no way for me to know for sure if that would be successful. Like if this would be the number one show, if this would be the way to go. But I just believed in my mind that, the vision that I had for how something looked. Like I always tried to envision, how do I make a poker show look like ESPN or look like an NBA broadcast, right? And that's kind of the mentality I always had. And it worked. It just happened to become popular quickly after we launched. And then, the networking over time to get people like MrBeast, to get people like Phil Ivey and Tom Dwan, to get people like Neymar on the show, to come up with these like unique ideas that people haven't done before, like the $1 Million Game. So all of those things together, I think is what has helped us. But yeah, it's been kind of a cool journey so far, but I think we're just getting started. There's still so many ideas that we haven't been able to do yet that we want to do. And I think that, this is only the beginning.
It's an exciting time for poker, man. World Series of Poker is breaking numbers every year. Like they had 10,000 people in the main last year? It was crazy.
I think the last 2 years it's been somewhere around 10,000.
Nuts, dude. Have you played the main before?
Yeah, I've played maybe 8 or 9 times so far.
Yeah.
Never cashed.
So that's crazy you say that, because Helmuth just announced he's never playing the main again.
I saw that. I call on that one. I don't.
Oh, you don't agree with that?
I would bet that he plays it this year.
Okay. Well, he's told me like it's an endurance contest.
Well, it is. But it's always been that way. So even, 10, 20 years ago, or I should say 10 years ago, it still was an endurance contest. It still was 7, 8, 9 days long. And so it still was hard for the older generation to win the main event. But there has been a few that have made the final table.
Right.
But But certainly that's just part of the sport, part of the game. This is a unique tournament. It's the World Series of Poker main event. I don't think that when something's breaking records lately, when it's had 10,000 people the last 2 years, the biggest numbers ever, that it's a time that you really want to change anything because it's doing well, right? It has the biggest prize pools, the most players. If anything, I think they could add one off day. This is something I saw Phil suggest. Add one off day somewhere in the middle somewhere. So you could do, already there's an off day after day 1 and after day 2, depending on when you play. But maybe after day 4 or 5, you could add an off day before the rest of the tournament. And then you have that off day before the final table. So just adding one off day doesn't affect it too much, but I don't think you can change the structure or anything too significantly because it's working. The main event is so popular now. And I think it's poker just as a whole has been huge the last few years. So it's exciting to see how that grows. And it's doing that without online poker even becoming legal federally in the US. And so if we get to a point sometime in the next 10 years where it comes back, right? It's been almost 15 years now that we haven't had online poker throughout the US. So if we get to a point where that comes back, then I think it'll blow up even more.
Yeah. Would you ever do tournaments on your show or no?
We could. We've thought about it, but just from my experience, I think that cash games generally do way better for viewership than tournaments do or sit and goes do. If we could ever organize a high roller tournament with big names where we have a feature table and then we stream the final table, kind of like Triton does, then I think that would do well. I think that's possible. It's something I've thought about doing sometime in the next year or two. But in general, cash games just do so much better. People love the idea that like every hand is worth a real amount of money.
It's faster paced.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And just anything can happen. People play looser in cash games. It's just for whatever reason, no limit hold'em, always the most popular. Cash games, always the most popular.
Yeah. How was it playing with Neymar? Was he filthy?
I didn't play with him, but he was on our show. But having him on the show was awesome. Neymar's super cool. Got to meet him when he came in, interact with him a lot. Super nice guy. Everybody that asked for an autograph or a picture, he did it.
Wow.
He's a huge deal. So it's really an honor to get Neymar on our show. Like this is a show that we just created based on our vision, and it's at Hustler Casino in Gardena, California. Like just thinking about that compared to some of the big poker shows out there and back in the day, like High Stakes Poker and the Poker Go stuff, you know, the fact that we've gotten someone big like Neymar on our show is really cool. But yeah, it was awesome. And he won a few $100,000. Yeah, he won like 300 because Alan Keating played a crazy hand against Neymar at the end of the show where they did this unique thing, and the clip's out there in the internet if you haven't seen it, that really has never been done before on a show, where they get it all in, Neymar wins. Then Keating says, wait. Let's run it again for another 50, just the last card. Let's run the river card for another 50,000. Neymar wins that. He says, wait, let's do it again. And every time Keating was 25 or 30%. So he was an underdog, but just did it anyway for fun to gamble with Neymar. So he puts another 50,000, another 100,000, and he just keeps gambling until he's out of money. And Neymar wins every single time. Keating never won on any of those extra river cards. And Neymar ends up winning something like 300,000 off of Keating in one hand.
That's straight degeneracy.
Yeah, it really was. It's one of the coolest hands we've ever had on our show.
That's cool.
So hopefully Neymar will come back this summer and we'll have another big celebrity show.
I'm sure. I know it's 3 years away, but the Olympics is going to be really cool for you since it's in LA. I'm sure you could get some.
I haven't even thought about that, but that's a good point.
2028.
Yeah.
You could probably get all the athletes.
That would be cool. I have a vision for one day having a show of like all A-list celebrities, whether it's athletes, musicians, just people, because poker is so big everywhere, right? Like it's like the one, I think, like unifying game that brings people together, right? You have people like Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods and Michael Phelps that play. Mm-hmm. You have musicians like, you know, Justin Bieber or who else? Just big musicians that play out
Drake
there.
plays.
Drake, right? He's a gambler, right? You have, streamers that probably play, like Aiden Ross. You have billionaires that play. We've had like Chamath on our show.
They have their own games, I heard.
Yeah, Chamath has a big game in San Francisco with Phil Hellmuth. So you have all these people all over the place. There's so many of these big private games in LA, like Steiny's playing, like Alex Botez, Ryan Garcia plays a ton, right? Manny Pacquiao used to play back in the day. Leonardo DiCaprio, Tobey Maguire, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, like all these guys love poker. And poker is that game where you can put people from all walks of life, put them at one table together, and it's competitive, it's for real money, and it's social at the same time. You could tell stories from business, from Hollywood. You could tell, bad beat stories as well, right? You could talk strategy. You could do business at the table while you're playing, and at the same time, you could be competing for $100,000. So my vision, my ultimate goal for our show, for one show, one day, is to get a bunch of A-listers like that at one table together and just break records.
That'd be great.
Right? And just imagine having, let's say you have Drake, you have Dave Portnoy, you have Kevin Hart, you have Neymar, right? All these guys at the same table together, I think would just do huge numbers and just be the coolest thing we could ever do. So that's my goal one day, and I'm going to keep trying to work towards that before, who knows how long I'll be doing this. I still have a lot of passion for it. I want to do it for a long time, but before I'm done, that's a goal that I'm never going to give up on.
You'll get there, man. I could see it. You're only a few years in and you're already crushing it.
Nice.
It's impressive. Have you ever played in Molly's game?
I haven't. I wasn't, I wasn't in LA back then, and I wasn't playing high stakes back then, but I know a lot of people that did play in Molly's game.
Yeah.
And so I've heard stories. Obviously, I've seen the movie a million times.
How accurate do you think that movie was based off your conversations with people?
I think it's pretty accurate. I think there's definitely some things that they altered and changed to make it more exciting for the movie.
Yeah.
But I think most of it is roughly accurate. For example, there's a scene in there where a guy gets it all in with pocket queens, I think it was, on Queen 7-7. And the guy who Brad, like Bad Brad in the movie, in the book from that game, he's a real person, gets it all in with Ace King on Queen 7-7 against pocket queen. So he's basically drawing dead. And it goes either King King or Ace Ace, and he wins the hand. The guy who had queens, I know that guy. I played a lot of poker with him. I can't say who it is, but so that part is real, for example. The part where the guy in the movie just goes off one night for like $1 million and then tells Molly afterwards that he can't pay, right? And they play like all night long. That's a real guy. That guy is Houston Curtis. People know him. He's still around. And
did he ever pay that?
I think they're in the movie. I assume this is accurate, but I don't know. I think the Tobey Maguire character, who's the Michael Cera character, ended up like making a deal with him to stake him to pay the money back. But I've heard the story about like who was in the game that night and like what happened and how the game went like overnight till the next day, and people started waking up and coming to play because they heard Houston Curtis was on tilt. So these are real stories, real things that happened. It's like, it seems hard to believe. Like it's a great movie. But poker was huge in the private game scene back in that era in Hollywood in like 2006 to 2009, whenever that was. I would have loved to be around it, but unfortunately I wasn't in the scene like that back then. But it's pretty cool to hear the stories about all these celebrities that were playing so big back then.
I heard those. Yeah, I heard about New York was big too back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if it's still big in New York, but has that ever happened to you where someone didn't pay you? Like they just played all night and kind of stiffed you?
More times than I'd like to.
So you're fronting players.
Well, no, not in the show. I'm just saying I've been involved in like other games and situations where someone's owed me money, and then just ends up being broke and not being able to pay, and I've had to deal with that. No, on the show, luckily, I have no financial ties or anything to any, like we deal with a casino. So people, they deal with all the compliance and financial stuff. So I don't have to deal with any of that. All I do is organize the lineup and the production. They worry about wiring the casino or bringing cash. They bring it to the cage. They deal with it. The casino tells them if they're good or not. They tell me, hey, there's an issue with this player. They can't play, or yes, they can play. All that's on the casino, between the casino and them. So that's why it's a big advantage for us to stream in a casino. But no, I've been involved in like other stuff outside of the casino and poker situations where
I heard that's common in your space.
Yeah, it's horrible, man. It's horrible. Like people are just degenerates. They gamble above their means. They're not honest about their situation. And
I have a rule. I don't lend any money anymore. I've lost too many friends.
Yeah, but I mean, I've had that rule. I had that rule forever back when I was just playing poker for fun, like when I was younger. But now that I've gotten more involved in poker, it's hard. Like when you're a game runner and it's just hard.
Especially if you're running, yeah.
Sometimes you just avoid spots. Like, I mean, it's sometimes some spots are unavoidable. And maybe there's a lot of spots I regret that I could have done better over time. And there's a lot of people that I've trusted that looking back, I shouldn't have trusted.
Yeah. Did you give money to Ryu Suke or whatever his name is?
Rusuke? No, I didn't. Rusuke, yeah. That was a crazy one.
Yeah, that was nuts.
I know people that he owes money to, Nick Airball being one of them. But yeah, Rusuke, that's a situation that's so interesting, and you see that a lot. He was the nicest guy ever. He was so friendly. People did not suspect that he was going to be a scammer. And then all of a sudden, one day, he just skips town and owes people money.
Like $1 million, right?
I don't know how much it ended up being, but it was a lot. And I've seen situations like that so many times. And it's like, you know, I learn as time goes on, like, you have to be more careful. And I'll warn people too, like, hey, you know, be careful. Don't do that. Don't do that. Like, I'll use my experiences to kind of tell other people.
Yeah.
But it's just tough when you're involved in games, you're playing in games, you're organizing games, you're doing, you know, it's just like, you're going to come up with situations once in a while where, you know, someone owes you for whatever the reason is. And, you know, most of the time it's no big deal, but sometimes it's just people aren't honest about their situation. Like I've had situations where, you know, we're playing in a, you know, we have like an online game we'll play sometimes, a rake-free game, just bunch of friends. We're all really close. We hang out, like we all trust each other, right? Totally like just legit, cleanest, most fun game that you can imagine, right? Once in a blue moon, we'll have somebody who's super wealthy. They're maybe not a billionaire, but like, you know, 9-figure net worth. And all of a sudden they just go off for like an absurd amount. And then afterwards tell you, shit, I messed up. I'm going to need a lot of time to pay that. Like, I'm just not liquid right now. Why didn't you tell us that before you decided to gamble that big? Right. Like, be honest about your situation before you screw someone over. So, you know, that just comes up sometimes and people put you in a bad spot because they're just such degenerates. This happens in private games all the time, right? Bet, yeah. Like people that run these private underground LA games get screwed all the time because, you know, somebody that's good for the game, somebody that's, you know, they think is worth a lot and is good for it, ends up going off for a ton of money. And then after the fact, they tell them like, hey, like I can't pay you that right away. And now they're in a bad spot. So it's the dark part about poker. Yeah. Probably the worst part about poker. But it's something that I've definitely learned how to deal with over time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I'm scared of the high stakes. Cause then you run into cheating too, right? Is that common?
Yeah. I mean, that's a scary part for sure. You have to be careful not to put yourself in a questionable spot, you know. During COVID, before our show launched, you know, 2020, I was playing, I had nothing else to do, right? Everything was shut down. Yeah. What do I do? I knew I was going to start a show a year and a half from then. So I went and just played in all these private games. That was my social time. Played poker, trying to make some money, but trying to also network and meet players and whatnot. And, you know, looking back at it, there was definitely some games where I feel like I probably got cheated. Damn. But I was so naive about it back then that I just didn't think about it too much. So after the fact, but since then I was more careful if I ever went to a game like that, where I want to make sure I know every player I'm playing with. Right. Who are they? I'm paying attention to what the dealer's doing, and if there's any like suspicious things, like them switching out the decks randomly. But yeah, I've been to actually a few games where looking back, I was probably cheated. Actually, I'll tell you a crazy story. So there was a game I played at in Vegas in 2020. At the time, it was the biggest game I had ever played and ended up being at the time, the most I ever lost. Okay.
Yeah.
And a week later, I found out from some people that had played in that same game on different days, that they suspected that this one guy in the game, cheated. Okay. I paid my balance right away the next day, like I always do if I'm in a game like that. But other people in those games didn't pay right away because they found out that they think this guy might have been cheating.
Yeah.
So they investigated it to the best they could over the next few weeks. There was no way to like hard prove it that the guy for sure cheated, but there was like some circumstantial stuff. So a bunch of these people like didn't pay their balance to that game. The game got shut down, never ran again. Again, people assume this one guy cheated, but there was like no way to really prove it to force the game runner to give the money back. Okay. Fast forward to a few years later. There's a game in LA with some guys from our show, that played, and it was like mostly an Asian game. Airball played in this game. Wesley played in this game a couple years ago. They ended up catching some guys in the game cheating, okay, somehow, right?
Yeah.
They exposed them. Wesley posted all on social media. It became like this big story in poker. These guys cheating. They posted pictures of who they were. I saw the picture of the one guy and I was like, holy crap, that's the guy that allegedly cheated when I was in the game in Vegas a few years ago. Like, you for sure got cheated because this guy's reputation is a cheater and I played with him, right? So we're like, oh my God, I can't believe it's the same guy. If they ever like sent me a picture when they were playing and said, you know this guy, I would have been like, get out of that game. Like,
Yeah.
this is bad news. Okay. Now, so that happened. Okay. That got exposed. Now fast forward like 2 years later. Okay. This past year, you know about the NBA sports betting scandal with Jonte Porter, the player that, they got in trouble for scamming prop bets. Where you don't know about this story?
Oh, I didn't.
It's a huge story. Look it up.
Okay.
His name's Jonte Porter. His brother, Michael Porter, is on the Nuggets.
Oh, I heard about it. Yeah.
And there's all these prop bets that you can bet on now on like DraftKings and FanDuel, where people in a couple of the games were firing the unders on his prop bets, and he's just a random bench player. And they ended up investigating it and found out that that he was, faking the injury or kind of like telling people beforehand, like, hey, I'm going to hit the under, I'm not going to play, or I'm going to miss these shots, like bet on me, right? The guys that were behind it were all poker related. And the one guy that was part of it was the same guy that cheated me in the poker game, that cheated in that game. And now he's involved in the sports betting scandal.
No way.
And another guy that was involved in the Wesley Airball game also was involved in this scandal as well. So it's like, it's just crazy how something as mainstream as that in sports betting, like tied to poker somehow.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
I wonder how he did the poker scam. Was he in on it with the dealer, you think?
I'm not positive, to be honest. There's some speculation, but that it could be something like that. Yeah.
Because the dealers they're so good these days. It's hard to
Exactly.
tell if they're shuffling it a certain way.
I try to like look sometimes and I have no idea. Like I would never be able to catch like the sleight of eye stuff. Or sleight of hand stuff.
Sleight of hand's so good these days. They can even do it in front of you.
Yeah, I would have no idea.
Tell.
Yeah, and so that's why these days, like I really don't play in private games. I just play with my own group of friends or at the casino on my own show. Like I know I can trust my own show, right? Like that's, I always tell people the only games that I know I can like fully trust are my own games.
Right.
I can't trust someone else's game 100%. I can only trust myself. I can only trust my own games. So, I always advise people to just be careful when you're going to private games and really know who you're playing with. Trust the host, trust the players.
Yeah. I wonder if people will switch to like AI dealers, like instead of human. You know what I mean?
I don't even know how that would
just to
work.
avoid like cheating, like automatically shuffle it and deal them out.
If that's possible, that'd probably be a good idea.
Yeah,
but
probably
who
in the
knows?
future.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's VR poker. I've seen clips of that.
Yeah.
Those are hilarious. Well, what's next for you, man? What's the next big stream coming up?
Well, we got the $1 Million game coming back.
When's that
coming up soon? It's going to be either April or May this year. So we've done it 2 years so far. This will be the third year. $1 million buy-in minimum. We've done 4 days each of the last 2 years. This year we'll probably do 3 days just to keep it easier, just because, sometimes we lose players last minute and the games end up not being as good. So we're going to do 3 days and just make the games really good. Expecting some big names for that. So that'll be fun. Last year we had a bunch of like $2 million+ pots. The year before we had a $3 million pot with Tom Dwan.
Jeez. That was the record, right?
Yeah.
At the time?
Yeah.
I think I saw that one.
Yeah. So Tom Dwan still has the record, not just the biggest pot on our show, but the biggest pot on any poker broadcast ever. So almost $3.2 million.
That was a crazy hand too.
Yeah. So hoping for some more, big pots like that this year. And then this summer, we're going to try to put together another celebrity game with Neymar and figure that out. So last year we had Neymar, Ninja, Ryan Garcia, Dan Bilzerian.
MrBeast, right?
That was a couple years before that.
Oh.
We had a MrBeast one as well. So that was our first celebrity one. Big celebrity one was MrBeast, Ninja, Ludwig, Tom Dwan, Phil Hellmuth, Alex Botez. The recent one we had Neymar, Ryan Garcia, Dan Bilzerian, Jimmy Butler. So that one was pretty big. And hopefully we get Jimmy Butler again with Neymar this summer, and then we'll try to fill it with some other like really big celebrities. So and then we got some big moves we're going to be making as well that we'll be announcing soon, probably by the time this airs.
Perfect.
We're going to try to really expand the show and scale it to be more than just a show at Hustler Casino. We want it to be more of a platform for poker content. We want to have streams in different locations. We want to have different kinds of poker content around the clock. And so we're hoping that over the next year, we build up our channel so that we are the go-to place for poker content.
I love it. Well, Ryan, we'll link your stuff below. Anything else you want to close off with, man?
No, that's it. Thank you for doing what you do. And
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
I'll be at the next game, hopefully.
All right, cool. Let's do it.
All right, guys, check them out. See you next time.
Thank you.